Welcome to this module on fundamental rights. So in this module, we'll be learning about the right to equality and also discuss about the articles related to right to equality. The right to equality articles are from 14 to 18 of the Indian Constitution. The right to equality guarantees equal rights for everyone, irrespective of religion, gender, caste, race, or place of birth. It also ensures equal opportunities in the government as well as ensures discrimination by state. So, right to equality basically deals with providing guarantee of equal rights to everyone, irrespective of their religion, gender, caste, race, or place of birth. So, whichever religion you follow, whichever gender you are, whether you are a boy or a girl, man or woman, caste, any category, any caste you belong to, higher caste, lower caste, scheduled caste, backward classes, any category, race, or any place you are born in, there is no discrimination against you. It will also ensure equal employment opportunities in the government sector. And it also ensures against discrimination by the state in the matters of employment. And this right also deals with abolition of titles as well as abolition of untouchability. Let us look at the articles of this right to equality. So, right to equality has articles 14 to 18. Article 14 deals with the state shall not deny any person equality before the law or equal protection of law within the territory, irrespective of the grounds, religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth. So, Article 14 deals explicitly that the state or the government shall not deny any person, whichever religion you belong to, whichever caste you belong to, whichever place you are born, equality before the law. It will protect you within the territory of India and you will be treated equally. Article 15 deals with the state shall not discriminate against any citizen on the grounds again the religion, the race, the caste, the sex, or the place of birth, or any of them. The state will not discriminate you on any grounds. State shall not deny the equal opportunity is Article 14. Article 15, state shall not discriminate against you. And Article 16 deals with providing of equality, the opportunities for you, for all the citizens related to appointment to any office under the state, for the government. Article 17 deals with abolition of untouchability. In any form, the practice of untouchability is prohibited according to Article 17. And Article 18 deals with abolition of titles like Sir, Rao Bahadur, which titles were given during the period of the Britishers. Those titles were abolished completely, but you can have the military and academic titles. The military, colonel, general, major, such titles, academic, doctorate, professor, such titles. So, any other titles other than military and academic titles are being abolished completely. So, Article 14 deals with shall not discriminate, the state shall not discriminate any individual. Article 15 deals with providing equal opportunity. Article 16, under the government, equal opportunities to the appointment to the office. Article 17, abolition of untouchability. And Article 18, abolition of all titles except the right to equality articles. So, we will be dealing with all the articles in this module which are related to right to equality. So, let us begin with equality before law for Article 14. So according to the Constitution, Article 14 treats all the people as same in the eyes of the law, which means you may be a celebrity, you may be a normal individual, you may be in a high profile position, even if you are a Prime Minister or President of India, the common man, you will be treated alike if you have done any mistake. The same law is applicable to all of you. Then there is a provision that states that all the citizens will be treated equally before the law. Under the same circumstances, the law will treat the people in the same manner. As I mentioned to you, the circumstances and the law are same. The people might be different. He might be in position, he might be in power. It doesn't matter. It will be treated in the same manner. That is equality before the law. Now coming to Article 15, prohibition of discrimination. Any kind of discrimination is being prohibited under Article 15. So no citizen, irrespective of his caste, color, creed, region, religion, place of birth, subjected to any liability, disability, restrictions or conditions with respect to access to any public places. As you can see here, any public places will not be denied the access, and they can use the tanks, the water tanks, wells, ghats maintained by the state are meant for general public. So you shall not be discriminated on the grounds of race, religion, caste, place of birth, sex, or any of them, or subjected to any liability or disability, any conditions whichever is existing, you will not be denied access to any public places. You can use the tanks, wells, ghats, etc. that are maintained by the state government. Now here, why they are mentioning very specifically about the public places means, earlier, before independence in India, we have caste discrimination where people were not allowed to use public tanks. They were discriminated and they were not allowed to use the public places. They were confined only for the higher caste people. In order to remove such kind of discriminations, the makers of the Indian Constitution brought Article 15, through which they prohibit all forms of discrimination. Moving to the next article. Article 16 ensures the equality of opportunity in the matters of public employment. That is Article 16. So there shall not be any discrimination against the matters of public employment or appointment on the grounds of race, religion, caste, sex, or the place of birth, or the region where you reside upon. So Article 16 completely talks about giving you the equal opportunity in the matters of public employment. Exceptions can be given for those who are in the backward classes. There are special provisions to deal with such backward classes communities. Article 17 deals with abolition of untouchability. Completely, the untouchability in any form is being considered as an offense after Article 17 has been brought. So according to Article 17, untouchability is abolished in any form that you practice. You cannot have any kind of practice which is an untouchability. It is considered as an offense. Now coming to Article 18, it deals with not to confer any titles, that is abolition of the titles. The state shall not confer any titles to those except those who are exceptionally good in academics or with the military titles. The article also prohibits the citizens from accepting any titles from a foreign state. So neither the state confers it nor the citizens of the country are allowed to accept any kind of titles from the foreign states. The article abolishes the titles that were awarded by the British, such as Rai Bahadur, Khan Bahadur, etc. Awards like Padma Shri, Padma Bhushan, Padma Vibhushan, Bharat Ratna, and military honors like Ashoka Chakra, Paramveer Chakra does not belong to this category. So according to the Article 18, any form of titles that are being conferred by the state except the academic or the military titles, no other titles are accepted. So you cannot have any kind of titles. Not only you from the state, but also from any foreign state, you cannot have this kind of titles. So any Indian cannot accept titles from a foreign nation or a foreign state. The titles that are being awarded by the British, such as Rai Bahadur, Khan Bahadur, were completely abolished according to this article. Awards like Padma Shri, Padma Bhushan, Padma Vibhushan, Bharat Ratna, and the military honors like Ashoka Chakra, Paramveer Chakra do not come under this category. So Article 17 is abolition of untouchability, Article 18 is abolition of titles. So Article 16 Clause 4 is nothing but the article that shall not prevent the state from making any provisions for the reservations of appointments or in the favor of any backward classes of citizens which is the opinion of the state and it's not adequately represented in the services under the state. So 16 Clause 4 gives the state the power to make certain appointments, certain reservations in the favor of the backward classes which may not be adequately represented in the services under the state. So what did we learn in the right to equality? The right to equality deals mainly with two things about equality. One, the equality of status. Two, the equality of opportunity. So all sections of the society should enjoy the equal opportunity. That is the prime motto of this particular article. Constitution also clarifies that government can implement special schemes and measures for improving the conditions of certain sections of society like children, women, and the socially and educationally backward classes. Article 16 of 14, as we discussed just now in the previous slide, that it clarifies government's authority to make certain special provisions for having fulfillment or take care of the backward classes. It clarifies very clearly that the policies like reservation will not be seen as a violation of rights to equality. If you see the spirit of the Constitution, this is required for the fulfillment of the right to equality and opportunity. Freedom that guarantees the Indian citizens to live a life of dignity, among other things. There are many articles which deal. The articles which mention the details about the right to freedom are Article 19, Article 20, Article 21A and 22 of the Indian Constitution. Let us quickly have a look at the articles and what do they deal with. What is a brief description about each article related to right to freedom. So this is the article brief description. You can see here Article 19, protection of 6 rights. It guarantees 6 types of freedoms for us. As you can see here, it is the speech and expression, assembly, association, movement, residence and profession. So all total, these 6 types of freedoms are guaranteed by the Article 19. So you have speech and expression, assembly, association, movement, residence and profession. Coming to Article 20. Article 20 deals with the protection with respect to conviction for offences. Article 21 deals with right to life and personal liberty. Article 21A deals with right to elementary education. As you can see here, Article 21A is added to the main article. It is inserted. So that's why we got Article 21A. And Article 22 that protects against the arrest and detention in certain cases. So the fundamental right to freedom is stretched over in 4 articles in the Indian Constitution. Article 19, 20, 21, 21A and 22. So they deal with different types of freedoms, protection, right to life, elementary education and also protection against arrest and detention in certain cases. Let us learn about Article 19 in detail now, each clause and section. Article 19 guarantees the 6 types of freedoms for us. As you can see here, the state guarantees freedom of speech and expression to every person in India. As you can see here, however, the state imposes restrictions on the freedom of speech, expression in the interest of the society, integrity, security and sovereignty of the country. Restrictions on the freedom of speech, expression, integrity, security, sovereignty, friendly relation with the foreign nations, foreign public order with respect to defamation, incitement of offence or contempt of court. So Article 19 exclusively deals with the freedom of speech and expression to every individual or every person of the country or every citizen. To put it straight, every citizen is guaranteed the freedom of speech and expression through Article 19. So Article 19 guarantees 6 types of freedoms as we have learned in the previous module. So the freedom of speech, the expression, is being guaranteed by Article 19. So what is guaranteed by Article 19? So Article 19 guarantees freedom of speech and expression to every citizen of India, every person of India. As you can see here, the Article 19 exclusively deals with freedom of speech and expression, but we also need to make a note that state can impose certain restrictions on the freedom of speech. So it is not absolutely guaranteeing you freedom of speech and expression, but there are considerable restrictions on that. First, how do they put or impose the restrictions? Mainly, they take integrity, security, sovereignty of the country, friendly relations with the foreign nations, public order with respect to defamation, incitement to offence or the contempt of court. In these conditions, if you try to oppose, if you try to create any problem for the integrity of the nation, security of the nation, sovereignty of the country, if there is anything what you are doing which is going to affect the friendly relations with the foreign nations, or with the neighboring countries. For the public order, if you try to do something which causes defamation or incitement to an offense, or you try to make something that is contempt of court, then the state would impose restrictions on the freedom of speech and expression. Moving to the next article, moving to the next freedom guaranteed under the Article 19. The state guarantees every person freedom to assemble peacefully without arms. However, as we discussed in the previous section of the freedoms, there are reasonable restrictions that can be imposed in the interest of the sovereignty and the integrity of the country and public order. So Article 19, Section 2, which type of freedom is the second type of freedom that is guaranteed, is freedom to assemble in a peaceful manner. You cannot carry arms and assemble. So freedom to assemble peacefully without arms is the second type of freedom that is guaranteed by Article 19. However, there can be reasonable restrictions that can be imposed on the interest of the sovereignty of the nation and the integrity of the country as well as the public order. So in these three conditions, to take care of the sovereignty of the nation, integrity of the country and the public order, there can be reasonable restrictions that can be imposed on assembling in any place. This is the second freedom that is guaranteed by Article 19. Let's now learn the third freedom guaranteed by Article 19. As you can see here, the third freedom that is guaranteed by Article 19 is the freedom to form associations, unions, or the cooperative societies. So, a state can impose restrictions on freedom to form the associations, unions, or the cooperative societies. This is the third freedom which is guaranteed under Article 19. As usual, when there is a freedom that is guaranteed, there can be some restrictions or state can impose some restrictions in the interest of the larger sections and the integrity of the nation, sovereignty of the country, security purpose, or to have a friendly relation with the foreign nations, or for public order with respect to defamation, incitement of offense, or contempt of court. The grounds are almost the same as we discussed with the first freedom that is guaranteed by Article 19. So Article 19 guarantees the third freedom, that is freedom to form associations, unions, or the cooperative societies. At the same time, there can be an imposition of restrictions in order to safeguard the integrity and security, sovereignty of the country. To maintain friendly relations, the friendly relations should not get affected. To maintain the public order with respect to defamation, incitement, or to offense or contempt of court. Let's move on to fourth freedom guaranteed by Article 19. So freedom to form associations, cooperatives, this is the third freedom where there are certain prohibitions. The Police Forces Act 1966, as you can see here, the Police Forces Act 1966 prohibits police personnel from forming trade unions. Don't misunderstand here. They cannot form a trade union. They can form a police union, but they cannot form a trade union. The Constitution also allows Parliament to pass the laws restricting any kind of formation of political associations, of the armed forces, intelligence bureaus, persons employed with the telecommunication system, etc. So, freedom to form associations has certain limitations. If you are a armed personnel, armed professional, IB professional, telecommunication system professional, police forces professional, So there are certain restrictions basing on your profile, what you are working. If you are working for police department, you cannot form a trade union. If you are working for any armed forces, IB or telecommunication system, the parliament can pass a law restricting to form any kind of political association to such kind of employees who are employed in armed forces, IB or telecommunication system. Now the fourth right or the freedom that is guaranteed under Article 19 is the freedom to move freely. A citizen of India can move freely throughout the territory of India. By this right, it can also restrict on the grounds of security, public order, or for protecting the interests of the scheduled tribes. So, fourth guarantee of freedom is freedom to move freely. Any citizen of India can move freely throughout the territory of India, provided there can be reasonable restrictions basing on the grounds of security, maintenance of public order, and also to protect the interests of the scheduled tribes or in the forest areas. Now the fifth right or the freedom that is guaranteed is the freedom of residence. The freedom of residence provides you the facility or the freedom for any citizen of the country to reside in any part of the country. So according to this right, you can live in any part of the country. Although restrictions can be imposed on the grounds of security, public order, and to protect the interests of the scheduled tribes close to the forest areas. Freedom of profession is the next freedom that is guaranteed by the Article 19. All citizens have a right to carry on a trade, profession, occupation, or anything that is not illegal or immoral in the grounds. So any such profession can be taken by any individual or any citizen of the country. The law does not prevent the state from making laws related to technical or professional qualifications required for practicing the occupation or trade. For example, if you are a bachelor's degree holder and you want to be an engineer, you need to have a technical qualification which is required. So, there is a law which does not prevent the states from making the laws related to technical or professional qualifications that are required for practicing any occupation or trade. As I told you, if you want to be a doctor, you need to have that particular medical qualification. Then only you can practice that profession. So other than that, you can practice any profession which does not require any technical skills, and if it is not illegal or immoral, there is no restriction on professions. Whatever you want, you can choose. So the Article 19 guarantees 6 types of freedoms. 1. The freedom of speech and expression, the first freedom that is guaranteed. The second one, freedom to assemble without any arms, is the second freedom that is guaranteed. Freedom to form associations, unions, cooperative societies, provided there are certain limitations where the armed professionals cannot form any political associations. Freedom to move freely. As a citizen of India, you can move to any part of the country. There are restrictions on the security grounds and also to protect the rights of the scheduled castes and tribes. Freedom to reside anywhere. You can buy a residence, you can live in any part of our country. And the last freedom is practice of any profession of your choice. There is no restriction or limitation that can be imposed on the freedom of your profession, provided the states can make laws regarding the technical qualifications which are required to do certain professions. So these are the 6 fundamental freedoms which are guaranteed under the Right to Freedom Article 19. Article 20 deals with retrospective criminal legislation. This is known as ex post facto criminal legislation. Under this section, a person cannot be convicted for an act that was committed at the time when the act did not have been declared by the law as an offense. So, what is retrospective criminal legislation? Retrospective criminal legislation means ex post facto criminal legislation. The other name for retrospective criminal legislation, ex post facto criminal legislation. So under this act, a person cannot be convicted, cannot be punished for an act, for the performing of an act that has been committed at the time when these act or the action is not declared as a crime or an offense by the law. That is known as retrospective criminal legislation. This means that the criminal legislation cannot be given an retrospective effect. This community cannot be used. This means that the criminal legislation cannot be given a retrospective effect. This immunity cannot be used against the provisions of preventive detention, and it does not cover the trial. So this law also provides that a person cannot be subjected to a punishment greater than what is prescribed by the law for the offense committed. So Article 20 basically deals with the retrospective criminal legislation, where you cannot punish any individual for the act what he has done before the law has declared that particular act as a crime or as an offense. That is the first point what we dealt. The second point, it also gives you immunity. So this immunity cannot be used against the provision of preventive detention. You cannot use this particular thing for Preventive Detention Act. So Preventive Detention Act can take anybody into custody if they have a doubt that they may create some problem in the society or in the maintenance of law and order. And the same thing, this law also provides that a person cannot be subjected to punishment which is greater than prescribed by the law for the offense committed. For every offense, there is a punishment that is prescribed. So you cannot give greater punishment than this. We have to give the same punishment which is given as per the law. So next point what we are going to discuss is double jeopardy. Article 20 also deals with double jeopardy. This indicates that a person cannot be committed for the same offense what he did more than once. So once he did an act, and if he is punished for the act what he has done, he cannot be punished again for the same act, for the same offense more than once. That is known as double jeopardy. Then the next point is prohibition against self-incrimination. Prohibition against self-incrimination. What is the meaning of this? This implies that no person can be accused of an offense shall be compelled by the state to bear witness against himself. So he cannot be a witness versus he himself. So this is called as prohibition against the self-incrimination. He cannot be the witness against himself. Nobody can force him to be the witness against himself. So Article 20 deals with retrospective criminal legislation. Second, double jeopardy. Third, self-incrimination. Retrospective criminal legislation means any act which is done before the law has turned or before the law has determined this particular act as an offense. So you cannot be punished before the act has come into existence, whatever offense has been done for that. Double jeopardy, which means you cannot be punished for the same offense twice. And self-incrimination, you cannot be the witness for yourself. The state cannot force you to be the witness for yourself. So these are the key points what we discussed regarding. Article 21 provides us the details about protection of life and personal liberty. No person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to the procedure established by law. So Article 21 of the Constitution talks about the individual's personal life and personal liberty. It clearly mentions that no person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to the procedure that is established by law. Equality on freedom, liberty are the two rights that are most essential to democracy. Now, when we talk about liberty, liberty means the freedom of thought, expression, and action. It gives you the liberty to choose your thoughts, expressions, and actions. That's the main thing when it comes to personal liberty. Freedoms are defined in such a manner that every person will enjoy his or her freedom without threatening the freedom of others and without endangering the law and order situation. Now, it is clearly mentioned in this article that freedom is given to all the citizens in equal manner, where you enjoy your freedom, but that freedom should not be threatening to the other's freedom. At the same time, you should maintain the law and order situation has to be fine. You cannot disturb the peace in the society. So Article 21 clearly tells us that the protection of life and personal liberty is not at the cost of others' liberty. You have freedom, but that freedom should not be threatening to others. Right to life and personal liberty is the second aspect what we are going to discuss now. The foremost right among the rights to freedom is the right to life and personal liberty. So right to life and personal liberty is the second aspect in the Article 21. So no citizen can be denied his or her life except by procedure as laid down under the law. It is clearly mentioning that nobody can deny his or her rights to life except if the procedure is laid in the Constitution. Similarly, no one can be denied his or her personal liberty. This means that the Article 21 clearly mentions that nobody can be arrested without giving the reasons why he is being taken into custody or arrest. This means that no one can be arrested without being told the grounds for such an arrest. If the arrested person has a right to defend himself by the lawyer of his choice, nobody can stop him from meeting his lawyer. Once if you are arresting anyone, you need to tell the reason why you are arresting them. Secondly, if arrested, then the person has a right to defend himself. So he has a choice to talk to his lawyer, and it is also mandatory that the police take a person to nearest magistrate within 24 hours. Once you arrest a person, you tell him the grounds on what you are arresting the person. And once he is arrested, he will have the right to defend himself by a lawyer of his choice. And it is mandatory as per the constitution, the police to take the arrested individual, the person who is taken into custody, to the nearest magistrate within 24 hours. And the magistrate who is not part of the police will decide whether the arrest is justified or not. And the right is not just confined to a guarantee against taking away an individual's life, but has a wide application. Various judgments of the Supreme Court have expanded the scope of this right. So Article 21 provides you the reason to know why you are being arrested, right to defend your life. You can appoint a lawyer by your choice, or you can ask for a lawyer. The court will provide the lawyer. Then it is mandatory as per the constitution to submit the arrested individual by the police to the nearest magistrate within 24 hours. The magistrate will then decide whether the arrest is justified or not, because he is not part of the police system. Now this right is not just confined to guarantee against takeaway of any individual's life, but it has wider application. Various judgments of the Supreme Court have expanded the scope of this right. So the Supreme Court has ruled out that this right includes right to life with human dignity, free from exploitation. So it is very clear by the Supreme Court through its judgment said that this right, that is Article 21, the protection of life and liberty, includes the right to life of the individual with human dignity, free from exploitation. So the court held that right to shelter, livelihood is also included in the right to life, because no person can live without the means of living, and that is the means of livelihood. So the court also added the clause saying that right to shelter and livelihood is included in the right to life, because no person can live without doing any kind of job or any kind of earning, and that is coming under livelihood. So in this article, it provides you the choice. Once you are arrested, you should know the reason for your arrest, and then you have a right to talk to your lawyer or appoint your lawyer. Then you need to be submitted to the court within 24 hours. Later, the court will decide whether the arrest is justified or not. And the Supreme Court's judgment makes it very clear that you have a right to live with freedom without exploitation, and right to livelihood also been added into this article. So Article 21, that is right to protection of life and personal liberty, has all these components involved in this right to freedom. What is preventive detention? Ordinarily, when a person would be arrested after he or she has reportedly committed some crime or some offense, then we take that kind of people into preventive detention custody. What is this preventive detention? Preventive detention means you take someone into custody in order to prevent something which is happening unconstitutionally, which can be a disturbance in the law and order. Sometimes a person can be arrested simply out of a apprehension, a doubt that he or she is likely to get engaged in an unlawful activity and imprisoned for some time without following the above mentioned procedure according to Article 21. What all rights are there to be explained, the reason, to discuss with the lawyer, to submit him to the court. These clauses will not be applicable for this particular preventive detention. The preventive detention means we have a doubt on an individual who has been reportedly committed some offense or some amount of crime, then we take that person into custody without following the procedures which are given in Article 21. It means that if government feels a person can be a threat to the law and order, then to the peace and security of the nation, it can detain or arrest that person. This preventive detention can be extended only for 3 months. After the 3 months, such a case is brought before an advisory board for review. So what is a preventive detention? When we have a doubt on an individual that is going to do some amount of crime or some amount of activity which is going to create a disturbance in the society, especially to the law and order, then the government can take that person into custody feeling that he is a threat to the law and order and peace and security of the nation. It can detain them. The maximum preventive detention can be extended up to 3 months of time, and after that you have to take him to the advisory board for reviewing whether we have to keep him under the detention or not. Preventive detention is looking like an effective tool in the hands of the government to deal with the anti-social elements or the subversives. It is an effective tool to arrest and keep the things under control which we feel are going to affect the nature. But this provision of arresting the individuals has been often misused by the governments many a times. Many people think that there must be a greater safeguards in this law so that it may not be misused against the people for reasons other than that which are really justified. Because it is the complete discretion of the government to use this provision and arrest the people. So there has to be a clear specification on what grounds they can use the PD, preventive detentions. Otherwise, they can use it for anyone, and that can lead to misuse of this particular provision by the government. So in fact, this has to be clear tension between the right to life and personal liberty, the provision for preventive detention. So we learned in this module the preventive detention. In preventive detention, we can arrest any individual who is under suspicion or doubt or the apprehension by whom? By the government. Then they will take the person into custody in order to prevent the loss or damage. Now this custody can be maximum extended for 3 months, and after 3 months you need to report it to the advisory board for reviewing it. So here Article 21, rights will not be applicable. The reason for arrest, lawyer or court, these clauses will not be applicable when it comes to preventive detention, because here we, as the name suggests, preventive detention means in order to prevent something we are detaining a person. That's why these are not applicable here, but there has to be a clear ground that has to be mentioned when we can use the PD, otherwise it can be misused by the governments. There are clear details about on what grounds we can arrest. It has to be checked in such a way that it is not misused by the governments who are in power. The other freedoms that are being guaranteed under the Indian Constitution, we can see here under the right to freedom there are some other rights as well. These rights, however, are not absolute. There can be considerable restrictions that can be imposed by the government, but there are some other rights that are guaranteed by the Constitution. One is right to freedom of speech and expression that is subjected to restrictions such as public order and peace, morality. The right to freedom of speech and expression can be subjected to the criticisms or restrictions such as public order. You have to maintain public order. Your speech cannot create a disturbance in the public order. There is a first restriction. If it is going to create any kind of disturbances in the law and order in the public, and it will be disturbing the peace in the society and the morality, then definitely government can put restrictions on your freedom of speech and opinion. Second right that is guaranteed is the right to assemble. The freedom to assemble too can be exercised peacefully without any arms. You can gather in any place without any arms in use, or you cannot carry any arms when you are gathering. The government may impose restrictions in case that when you declaring the assembly of 5 or more persons as an unlawful, if you are having arms usage or you are going to assemble in order to create some disturbance in the law and order, peace or morality, then freedom of assembly too is be exercised in the restricted manner. So there can be impositions brought on that. Now, such powers can be misused by the administration when there are clauses that it can impose restrictions. As we can see here, there are clauses that can be imposed restrictions. Similarly, when it is misused by the administration in many cases, especially when the opposition parties try to have a peaceful assembly and discuss on any point, they generally misuse their power and they put restrictions on such kind of meetings. But the genuine protest against an act or a policy of the government by the people may be denied permission as well. So the power of putting restrictions can be misused by the administration or the government which is in power, because sometimes people may genuinely show their protest or anger against any policy of the government by that can be denied on the grounds of imposing restrictions. If the people are aware and vigilant in regard to their rights and choose to protest against such an act of administration, such misuse becomes rare. So, if people are aware that government cannot put restrictions on a peaceful assembly, then they all can choose to protest peacefully so that the government cannot use its power to stop such kind of demonstrations which are done in a peaceful manner. Then the administration misusing its power can become rare. So the key here is awareness of the public. The awareness of the public is very, very important, and they have to be really vigilant. In a constituent assembly itself, some members have expressed their dissatisfaction about the restrictions which are placed on the rights. So this thought is not coming from the restrictions that are placed by the government. This thought is there from the very beginning in the Constituent Assembly itself by some of the members saying that we cannot put restrictions on the rights. But the government has a right as per the Constitution to put restrictions on the right to speech. The freedom what we have in speech, expression, assemble, protest. What are the grounds that the permissions are being denied? 1. Public order. 2. Peace. 3. Morality. In these 3 grounds, the rights can be brought under restrictions and the permissions can be denied. Now, many times governments may misuse such powers of imposing restrictions and cancelling the permissions which can be given to the public to show their protest. In the Constituent Assembly itself, some of the members have expressed their concerns about the dissatisfaction of putting restrictions on the rights which are given to the citizens. So, these restrictions are not kept when it is done peacefully. So, the awareness of the public and being vigilant about the restrictions and knowing about their rights can reduce the choices or the chances of the administration to misuse the power, that is, to impose restrictions and deny the permissions. So these are the other rights that are being guaranteed under the fundamental rights, and that is right to freedom of speech and expression, which is subjected to restrictions such as public order, peace and morality. Freedom to assemble too is to be exercised peacefully without arms. This is very, very important. The government may impose certain restrictions in the areas declaring the assembly of 5 or more persons as unlawful. Most of the times the government misuses or the power has been misused by the administration. The genuine protests also come under the category of the government saying that people may be denied the permission to protest. People should be aware and be vigilant in regards to their rights so that they can choose to protest against the act of administration. Such misuses become rare. There was a concern raised even in the Constituent Assembly that there cannot be restrictions on citizens' rights. So, right to speech, expression, assembly, protest can be denied permission on the grounds of public order. Every accused person has certain rights according to the Indian Constitution. So now we are going to discuss about the rights of the accused. Our Constitution ensures that a person who has been accused of various offences would also get sufficient protection. So as per our Constitution, it is guaranteed to the person who is accused for various offences will also get sufficient protection. We often tend to believe that anyone who is charged with some offence is guilty. But no one is guilty unless the court has found that the person guilty of an offence. Once, if any person is taken into custody by the police, we feel that he has done the crime and he is guilty. But the court clearly mentions that in this article, no one is guilty until and unless the court declares him that he is the person who has done the offence. It is also necessary that a person accused of any crime should get adequate opportunity to defend himself or herself. If a person is taken into custody, he is not guilty and he is also to be given a right and an adequate opportunity to defend himself. He should be given the opportunity to defend himself or herself. And what are the rights that are guaranteed? First, to ensure a fair trial, the Constitution has provided 3 rights. How many rights? 3 rights. What are they? First one, no person shall be punished for the same offence more than once. According to Article 20, we saw the clause double jeopardize, which means no person shall be punished for the same offence more than once. Second law, that the law shall declare any action as illegal from a back date and no person shall be asked to give evidences against himself or herself. So these all are related to Article 20, what we learned in the previous module, where one is double jeopardize. You cannot be punished for the same offence twice. Second, the act which is not declared as an offence by the court, before it declares, we cannot give punishment, or you cannot bring the act which is backdated, and once the law is made, you can commit him for the crime. So no law shall declare any action as illegal from a back date. And the third one is you cannot be giving witness against he versus himself. No individual can be forced to give evidence for himself or witness for himself. So in this slide, we learned that there are certain rights for the accused according to the Indian Constitution. One, whoever is taken into custody is not considered as a guilty person until it is proven. He should be given adequate chances to defend himself for the crime that is being accused on him, and the Constitution guarantees 3 important rights to ensure a free and a fair trial. 1. No person shall be punished. 1. No person shall be punished for the same offence more than once. Second, no law shall declare any action as illegal from a back date. 3. No person shall be asked to give evidence against himself or herself. All these are mentioned in the Article 20 of the Indian Constitution.